Ready when you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Beyond Just Business Season 2. We're starting off with one question in mind. We haven't discussed it. I haven't given them the behind the scenes. I'm just going to ask Paul one very simple question and see where this conversation goes. First and foremost, Paul, I really enjoyed Season 1. I think the feedback from the listeners has been great. The messages I'm getting from people about certain elements of it just resonating with them. It's really hit people in ways that I didn't imagine or had never thought would have. And people seem to be leaning into the fact that we're just having a conversation. We don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
prompting boards. We don't have lines that we're trying to deliver. And we're not pitching a timeshare in Bolivia either at the end of every podcast. So I think it really resonates with people.
And one of the things was that we're open to advertising people.
So those timeshares are actually in play if anyone does want to actually do anything. So
Just
then,
a shout out to Jamie Gill, the gag.
do you hear that, Jamie? Jamie, you're in Dalkey. We've got expensive taste. We both like our glasses. And I think we'd make fantastic ambassadors. We're just putting it out there. We don't play favorites, but if you're willing, let us know and we'll make a place for you and put a package together for you. I'm going to ask the question now, and it's something that just literally it hit me just before we pressed record. When is enough enough?
When is enough enough? Double-edged sword. That is. What comes to mind for me is that I think nearly every single individual will want more. I think we're naturally built for that way. It's just evolution that we want more. But I think there is a point whereby it becomes obsessive and you're wanting more for the sake of just having more without the fulfillment or without the satisfaction and without actually enjoying it. So you're constantly striving. And I see this quite a bit in few people. They're just constantly wanting more and more, but they're not actually really satisfied, if that makes sense, or they're not really fulfilled. That's what jumps to mind straight away. What is it for you?
It sounds like a funny one, but I think I almost get these revelations on a daily basis, which sounds funny. It's not like I wake up every day and I'm hit at the side of the head with a wonderful insight into life. But I think every day it's very easy to overlook the normal, wonderful, simple things. So I often say, if I can get up and I can walk downstairs to make a coffee, or if I can do something very simple, sometimes it hits me that I'm doing something that someone else wishes they were doing. And I think it's like that graphic, the image where someone is in a hospital bed looking at someone out walking,
Yeah,
going for a
yeah.
walk, and then they wish they could be the walker. The walker sees whatever. But I think in light of recent events with everything that's happening with Charlie Kirk, and we're not going to get
Mm.
political about it, but I think sometimes it's very easy to assume that every single day is it's given to you. It's going to be an absolute certainty. And I think in that people then seek more by virtue of taking what they have for granted. So I suppose I'm keenly aware that every day is a gift. Whether
Mm.
anyone's religious or not, every day is a gift. And when you have your health and everything else, it is a given. And I think people seek more to fill a hole that can't be filled with more. And I think the difficulty is we've been taught to sit still, learn, do what you need to do. And then when you get these things, there's a magical place called over there that
Mm.
will fulfill your needs in a variety of ways. But I always use the example of a pair of shoes. Brand new pair of white shoes. You'll only wear them when the sun shines. As soon as it's raining, you're inside wiping them off. Then you get one scuff and suddenly you're on to the next pair in your mind, whether you
Mm.
bought it or not. But I think that's everything. And I know people who buy things to fill that space, and it will never be enough. It's like Scrooge McDuck jumping into the pool of gold in the old 90s animation that he has more than enough for 100 lifetimes,
Yeah,
and it still will
yeah,
never be enough.
yeah.
That seems, and I'm seeing it, it's almost like its own pandemic. I'm seeing people that have so much in so many ways, and they still want more.
But perhaps it's down to just on Charlie Kirk. That's one that ha that impacted. It impacted me, to be quite honest with you, in terms of I was so shocked when that happened because I've been following him for a number of years, listened to, and he's an amazing debater. And apart from what people view of his political views and all the kinds of things, but he's just an amazing debater from that perspective. But it was just a shock that such a thing could happen. But that's one side. The other side is I don't know whether people that are on the treadmill of wanting more, they sometimes I don't think they actually stop to see what they do have. And like you mentioned, you wake up every day and you're grateful for the fact of You can walk around, you can walk down the stairs, you can have a cup of coffee, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. For people that say do meditation, they will experience what it's like just to be still and listening to whether it's the birds singing or the wind or whatever it might be and so on. And they're taking those moments just to be present. And that alone literally gives a huge amount. And I'm just wondering whether people that are on the treadmill and wanting more, so whether it's the next biggest car or the newest car or the newest phone or the newest fashion outfit or whatever it might be and so on, or the bigger and better house or whatever it might be, I wonder do they actually ever stop to just be still and just be present? Because actually, in my mind, there's so much more to be got from just being present. You'll know this, Andrew. I built a decking in my back garden there a couple of years ago, or a year, yeah, 2 years now at this stage. And there's nothing better than actually just sitting on the decking and listening to the birds, a bit of sun coming through and all that kind of stuff. It's just phenomenal. In those moments, I don't want to be anywhere else. And I just wonder whether people actually take that time out just to be present.
I could answer it on behalf of everyone and say they don't. And I think people will. This is the fallacy as well. And this is the stuff that kind of pisses me off at times. People portray this fulfillment or happiness for the sake of dinner party conversation. It's almost, let's say, if I'm in the middle of an argument and I pass you on the street, for a brief moment, I portray, oh, hey, how's it going, Paul? Good to see you. Thanks a million. And it's like the couple in Father Ted. You go back to being miserable. You know, the couple that
Yeah,
fight.
yeah,
For anyone who's listening internationally, Father Ted is a phenomenally Irish show from the 90s that had a great run on television, and it was irreverent, but it taught us a lot as well in some ways. But I really do think, and I look around and sometimes it's like I can't unsee people's unhappiness. And
mm,
I don't get, and it's not that I have a gift or anything, I don't get taken in by the stuff people have. I can almost see that glint in their eye. And it's like someone who is coming home to their family, let's say from college, and they're asking how it is, and they're trying to give them the best information, the best of the experience. Oh, it's great. Yeah, I'm making friends, all top level generic statements. And then they glance out the window, and you can see that that glance out the window means they're doing something they don't enjoy. They're not connecting with people. Maybe they're following a path that they feel they have to continue on, which could lead them to a decade of study
yeah,
and
yeah,
not actually doing what they want. But I think nowadays, kids at a certain age, and I've said it before, you're encouraged to explore, be goofy, be yourself, and have this wondrous approach to life. And then there's a period of time where someone or whatever it may be says, okay, you've had your fun. Now start doing this thing. But this thing then mushrooms into all the other things.
yeah,
I want to become qualified at X. I want to become a manager, managing partner, director, senior, whatever else it is. And I think people get to a stage where the treadmill is, it's almost as if you imagine setting it to 7 or 8. It's just enough that you keep going, but then imagine someone sets the treadmill to that and then takes away the button. And then you
yeah,
can do
yeah,
nothing. And
yeah,
you're aimlessly walking. And suddenly a decade goes by. And
yeah,
I think that's when people start to seek alternative pain relief in
yeah,
whatever form that
yeah.
makes.
But then what comes to mind is where I always typically go is so where does it originate from? Where does it come from? What's what is it within the individual that will constantly want more? But in some respects, by them constantly wanting more, they're trying to fill a void. So what's the void that they're trying to fill? So if they grew up in a childhood or whatever, and because typically you will go back to the childhood, it'll invariably always nearly always go back to the childhood.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the void that they're trying to fill by wanting more? And again, whatever that might be, whatever the more might be, whether it's the career progression or whether it's the fancy items, the cars, the glasses. No, that's just a statement. That's all. But whatever it is, but I think it's mostly in relation to the career progression. I think that's where they seek it out because in their mind, the career progression equals and results in more money, and more money then gives them more buying power to buy whatever it is. So whether it's the houses or the holidays or whatever it might be and so on. But then the I suppose that if from my perspective, the saddest thing is, okay, so what's the void actually that they're trying to fill? Is it approval? Is it recognition? Is it seeking the approval from everybody else? Seeking the approval of a parent? What, yeah, ultimately, what is that void that they're trying to fill? Because they're trying to fill it from all the external items, but none of those things will actually give them what they want. They've got to look inward. They've got to look internally and see what's actually going on inside.
And when you say that, what resonates with me is it, and it's fascinating when I think of childhood. Like even when my daughters ask me about my childhood, I can't remember loads of it. And like and I think back to it, and then I compare it to my wife, and she pulls it up like a Wonder Years highlight reel. They
Yeah,
still talk
yeah,
about all these wonderful things that happen. And if I was to go back and see, I suppose I've gone from wishing certain things didn't happen to trying to learn from them and then adapt them now with that kind of mindful element and still making a hames of it most of the time.
mm,
Like
mm,
that's the nature of it. But then I also know people who have had difficult childhoods, but it's almost as if it's, I think you used the example before of like a Russian doll, but it's almost as if they have the doll on their shoulder. And if you listen long enough, you'll see that everything they do is to either, let's say if you've got someone who's in a house that didn't have money, they're kind of going, I'm going to have enough money that I'm going to show that kid a good time. I'm
yeah,
going to do
yeah,
that, what that kid never got or whatever it may be. Could have been a game, could have been an experience, whatever. But the difficulty with that is that they almost haven't healed that side of it where they get enough,
yeah,
technically.
yeah,
And if they sat down and they got to go back in a time machine with that kid, the kid would look there and say, I actually only wanted love, affection. I just
mm,
wanted the experience and I remembered the particular thing. You don't need to be doing all of this. And then it
mm,
would almost get them to turn the tap off and say, wow, okay, I have enough. So what's next?
mm,
I think we have this retrospective thing of as if we're watching a movie. You watch a movie and you see the guy creeping in through the back door. And when you're younger, there would always be this thing of if I was there, I'd grab the bat and I'd do this and I'd do that. But in the moment, you're the one in the house who doesn't know there's someone coming in. So I think when people try and fill that void, they're filling a void that they're not actually, they're almost skipping over the foundation, which is okay, you've got to put in a little bit of sand, a little bit of gravel, a little bit of to almost level it out. And that's when you then cover it, as in cover it over and
mm,
smooth it
mm,
out to an extent,
yeah.
if that's a good example to use. But I
But
think if
I was
everybody,
trying to figure out where you were going with that, but now I know you were trying to bury bodies in the back garden.
yeah, it's alleged. And so I'm going to do all good podcasts that involve the mafia ball. It's allegedly and Dead Men Tell No Tales. You got to do. I'm also in property and I know how to lay a good foundation. But I think if I'm weighing it out, what really fascinates me is when I think of you have people that it's as if they're wired or calibrated where enough is actually just they're having a meal and enough is having that particular meal. And then people almost have this label of, yeah, but he's not driven. He doesn't want X, he doesn't want Y. And you think, how amazing is it that person knows themselves or is happy? Now, and I
Mm,
suppose this is the thing where I would challenge the concept where someone says, "Yeah, I'm happy. I've got everything I want," and that's almost like a line, like a political line. Whereas if someone
yeah,
got to jab at
yeah,
it and they go, "Well, you know what? Yeah, I do have my particular, I have my needs met, but I'd love to climb Kilimanjaro." Like that,
yeah,
that's a different thing.
yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah,
And I think nowadays, like comfort is literally a click away. It's no longer like the internet. If it's longer than 10 seconds to load, we're on to our provider
yeah.
complaining. There's food 24/7 nowadays. I think Wendy's have now come out, or Taco Bell have come over to Ireland. We're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from having an American twang at this stage.
Mm,
But when I think of all our needs being met physically, I still think it just exacerbates us buying things, doing things, trying to experience things that aren't going to actually have any effect. I find it quite disturbing, to be honest with you.
yeah, yeah. I caught on the news there, it was one of those ticker tapes on Sky News, I think it was. And it was Chris Horner, which was the manager of Red Bull,
Mm.
Formula One racing. And he's after getting an exit package of £80 million. I don't know what age he is, probably not too far off me. So he's probably got about maybe say another 30, 40 years. What's he going to do with the 80 million? Like where, how on earth could you spend 80 million? And is that going to be enough for him, or is it going to make him happy? Now, if anybody's followed the Formula One series will know what he's like, and different things hit the media and all that kind of stuff and so on, but they'll know what he's like as a person, as a manager. They'll get a side of, they won't know fully what he's like, but they'll get a side of what he's like. But with that amount of money, and you could say there's a lot of executives that will be on like crazy money. Or somebody emailed me yesterday, stupid money. It's the first time I ever heard that term. It was really good. But there are people that are on stupid money, and you wonder, what's actually going on for them. Now, do we want someone that? Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. Look at who wouldn't want to improve their status from the point of view of stay in a better hotel or go first class in flight or whatever it be. Everybody wants that, but fundamentally, when it gets down to everyday living, if you're constantly striving to want more, then you're not satisfied. And I think that's very different for just enjoying life, going through life, wanting more anyway, because you want to progress. But the driver is more about progression and evolving, as opposed to I just want more, because now that kind of smacks of different issues, to be honest with you.
Let's say Christian Horner, and again, like you said, when it comes to success and people are at the pinnacle of a certain sport, whether it be in the management area or the drivers themselves, the money is, let's say, for example, Lewis Hamilton famously doesn't drive outside of
Yeah,
driving.
yeah.
So like it's not, it's like the driving for him, he's at the pinnacle in terms of where he was, well, depending on
I
what way you
suppose.
look at it. Yeah, and like I can't exactly, that's like me watching someone in the Olympics kind of go, oh, I could have done it faster. I couldn't, so I'm not going to pretend. So I'm always in awe in terms of how these people do things. But I equally think, let's take Christian Horner as an example. There's 80 million after a number of years building a brand, building a team, and being so successful. So inherently, absolutely every foreseeable need, if someone was to write a list, is being met.
Yeah.
But, and it's not picking on him. Like he's
Mm.
got a wife who had her own career, he's got kids, everything else. There's people who would then say, you have everything. Now you can drop the kids to school. Now you can do all the things you want to do. But I don't think the money matters anymore. I
Mm.
think
Mm.
there's something beyond that when you're at a certain level for some people. And I think you can juxtapose it with anybody. Like I think of the Warren Buffett documentary where he goes and gets his McMuffin, and
Yeah.
depending on the market, he goes up or down, whether he gets two sausages or not, whatever. He doesn't go in and splurge on 28 of them. And I would, like, I would look at it and say, if I was that type of person, one day I will deny myself all of those sausage McMuffins. And then the day will come where I get 48 of them and a hash brown, and I'll say, oh, sure, I'll just do whatever. And the reason I say that is I'm self-aware enough to know in my mind, I'm kind of go, well, what's that driver with him that know every day it's a steady Eddie? And it
Mm.
doesn't matter that he could buy the McDonald's or have it delivered to his house or have someone follow him in a food truck that just to hand it to him. But if we look at that internal metric, technically himself and Christian have the exact same needs met from the perspective of they could pretty much not be comparable on everything, but let's say they could both in and around buy whatever property they
Yeah.
wanted,
Yeah.
all these things. I think if you took everything away from them and put them in a room with no sound, that is where you get an insight into who is going to go mad and
Mm.
just sit there and bide their time and explore their own internal thoughts, and who would be absolutely losing their mind because they're not getting the opportunity to do what they want to do. So I would imagine Christian Horner is going to go into another Formula One team, maybe one
Mm.
that needs
Mm.
development. And without getting into the ins and outs of it, I think he's going to do that because he has to. I don't
Yeah,
think he
exactly.
is,
Exactly that. Yeah.
that wanting more for him is not a tangible wanting more. He
Yeah.
can't put his
Yeah.
finger on it. And I suppose he's now on the other side of, when you think of what people like, there's a role we all play in everyone's life where, the team members, when you are at the pinnacle of what you do, you are up there, you are the top sales guy in the team, essentially, who's been
Mm.
given everything, he's been used as the North Star for everyone else to aspire to. And then when you start to drop a little bit, suddenly you're put down here, and then people are scanning for the next big thing.
Yeah.
And I suppose he's now on that other side of that. But that is a perfect example for anyone who watches the show or anyone who
Mm.
sees what they perceive to be the perfect way to build a life. I see, this isn't me begrudging, like you said. It isn't me saying that I don't want 10 or 15 million quid in the
Mm.
bank
Mm.
or wanting to turn left when I go to New York or whatever else. I think it goes back to what you said, which is stillness. That if I
Mm.
got you to sit on a park bench on it, like at the moment, the day we're shooting today, it's sunny and it's dry, on a park bench with just a few birds singing, and you've left the phone at home. Are you going through your shopping list? Are you remembering 10 people you need to call back? Are you worried about something that you should be, let's say, a health scare? Or are you just sitting there listening to the birds, being in the moment, and just letting everything else play out the way it plays out? Because the fallacy of the way we live is we all assume that because we get so many days, perceived days in a row where nothing really happens, the assumption is that's the way it always is, like electricity.
Yeah.
But if electricity goes off, you're snookered. Like, good luck trying to make tea.
Especially in Ireland.
I've already experienced it. What starts off as a novelty on the barbecue, and then the gas runs out. That's when all these doomsday preppers come into their own.
Oh God, yeah. Uh, the literally, I'm taking it back to you describing sitting on the park bench, and just honestly, that for me is just you can't get much better. It is the simple things. Yeah, I completely agree. Chris is probably going to go into another team. Warren Buffett, if he was locked in a room, he'd still be go mad looking for financial reports to analyze and to see where the growth is and so on. God, I don't know whether I'd want their life or not though. Like I see one individual and he spent his career climbing that corporate ladder and got extremely handsomely paid for it, don't get me wrong. But he worked really hard for it. And I have two scenarios. One was, yeah, built a corporate career, worked extremely hard, 7 days a week, really long hours, traveling internationally, and he's no longer with us. And I've another individual that, again, did exactly the same thing, but followed the corporate ladder, but never actually, from what I observe, and I can only go by that and different conversations I would have had and all that kind of stuff and so on, never actually got to really enjoy life. And that is just so sad. I remember I wrote a newsletter there recently, and the story was like, don't wait for the grandchildren to come around, because now he was living his life through the grandchildren as opposed to living his life because he missed his own children growing up and so on. That's tough. So I don't know. I suppose it's horses for courses. If for people that want to be that are driven and that is their sights that they want to put on in terms of, yeah, they want to aim at getting the money, getting the position, getting the houses and all. But I suppose in my line of work, I've just come across so many of those because they're clients. So many of them that they get to a point where they're just lost. They've lost themselves. And whether that's because the company has decided to downsize, or there's a restructure, or they're at the point of retirement or close to it, or whatever it be, and so on. And then they're like, okay, so what do I do next? Because they still need that adrenaline push to do what they want to and to get the result from it. But then when they're on their own and they're just got their own reflections to look over, that's pretty sad. And again, it's only based on conversations that I've had with clients. Some people can observe it from other people that they would come across and so on. But what drove them is still a void that they still want to fill. Or it's what I mean by a void. So a void is one thing, but a void can also be connected with for one better word, not so much a trauma, but it's something that they have built within them that they haven't just addressed. That it's like that itch that they're trying to scratch the whole time, but the itch will never go away. And until such times they actually address the itch, it's always going to be there, but it's not a healthy one. I've never seen it to be healthy so far. And until such time they actually address that, then they can reconcile back to themselves and say, okay, because the fundamental question that comes up is, who am I? In a lot of respects, because they've identified themselves with the career that they have, the position that they hold. The first thing you ask them is, what was it that you do? And they'll say, oh, I'm a solicitor, I'm an accountant, or whatever. But they normally refer to their profession, or they're a CFO or a CEO or of a particular organization. It's always the title. But actually, do they ever take time? Perhaps because they don't have the time. The only time that I've heard a client refer to having a reflection moment was when they were on the plane back from a long trip and they were on the plane saying, what am I doing this for? That was the only time that they actually had a time of reflection. And whether it's because it was one of those red eye flights and they too jaded to work anyway, that they actually just took the time on the flight to say where were they going. And that was their impetus to say, okay, I need to change my life. And that was pre-code, just pre all that kind of stuff and so on. But I suppose, yeah, I think we're coming around to what we started off with. People just don't take the time out to just reflect inwardly because they're constantly on the treadmill.
But like I think of like I see it now with my kids, and I'm keenly aware I don't hold much stock in the concept of education. Like I've learned more from making mistakes
Mm.
and from being embarrassed. Embarrassment in practice is far better than embarrassment in theory because you learn a lot more. But when I think of why we do these things, a lot of it is I'm blown away sometimes when I think it's also that the norm in inverted commas is that we all assume we're going to wake up. And I bring it back down to brass tacks. If I wake up in the morning, like last week, 4 o'clock in the morning, the dog woke up and normally he doesn't, but he woke up to go to the toilet and I fell down the stairs, right? And in that brief moment where I fell down 6 steps, I thought, what part of me is broken?
Yeah.
This hurts like I don't know what. But being classic, like hyper independent, I dragged myself into the kitchen so I could whimper in peace without waking the rest of the house up. But let's just say in that moment, what if my leg was broken? So I can't go up the stairs anymore. Then it's the front room becomes my bedroom, whatever. Let's just say in that moment of conversation. But I think there's so many facets of our life where you think everything is given as a given,
Yeah.
and then you start to follow a template but a template will cut out a particular size, style, and picture or shape or whatever it may be. It doesn't mean it's yours. And I think the challenge is that when you become self-aware, people have this perception that it's then too late. So your concept of what you like and who you are and your identity when you're a kid, some people it's drilled into them or they can explore from a young age. And someone says, I always knew he was going to be X. He was always a musician. He was always an artist,
Mm.
whatever. That's a very creative sign. But someone who's in their mid 40s in a corporate job, and see, this isn't corporate bashing. There are
Yeah,
some
yeah.
people that the boardroom is where they belong. They have an innate understanding of how to deal with people, deal with the structure of the company, and for them, that's like their oxygen. And I say kudos to that. I'm
Mm.
absolutely all for everyone's version of winning. But I also know there's someone staring out the side of a window, kind of going, I've got 5 more years and then I can do the thing.
Mm.
Move closer to the kids, travel the world, do whatever it is. And we all keep having this concept of putting it off. But in the meantime, we go, it's almost, I'm going to go on a diet, but in the meantime, I'm going to have this. And that it's the same thing. The Mars bar is the same as a watch, a car, an experience, moving house, trying to buy things, buy people's affection because you think that's what will make people like you more. But that treadmill of just stopping. And I noticed that I had to learn, still would have justified why I was going for a walk by myself without my phone.
Mm.
I'm going to go clear my head. I have to go for a walk. I'm going to go for a walk, but I'm not going too far. And when I come back, oh, the stuff I'm going to do, and it's going to cancel out the time that I wasn't. I'm kind of going, why am I saying that? If I was told I had 6 months to live, I'd be like, bugger the people I don't have any interest in
Mm.
seeing.
Mm.
I'm not going to a dinner with 20 people I don't want to be around. And no offense to them, but my time is valuable, as in literally, I don't know where it's going to go. But that is what happens. A decade goes by of doing something, and then you
Mm.
realize, wow, I've been doing this thing and it's not what I want. And I think people think the reset button is like it's just too far beyond them at a certain age. And I saw a video this morning, which was really pointed. I sent it to my wife, which was, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but that up until you're 40, it's all research. And then
Mm.
you start and I think we've been sold this idea that you're meant to know just because you can vote and drink at 18 in Ireland and at 21 in the States, you're meant to know what life is about. I know less now than I knew when I was 20, and I'm okay with that. But
Mm.
I equally think I think if people had the opportunity to really see that nothing, the best way to describe it is without waffling is nothing is safe.
No,
When you
because
realize
you're,
nothing is
yeah,
safe, everything is okay because you
yeah,
can give everything a go.
yeah. And what you're saying, leave on the assumption that tomorrow's going to come, but it's only an assumption. But what if you knew you only had 5 years to go? Then what would you do? And
That's
for
just,
some,
yeah.
yeah, for some people that they may continue doing what they've always been doing. I know some of you did that, but yeah, I wonder, do people actually take the time out just to answer that question in terms of if you knew for a fact that you only had 5 years to the day, like literally to the day, to the hour of your time left on this earth, what would you do? And I think that's a really telling question.
And maybe we should leave it there for people. Maybe ask the listener. Maybe we give someone a little bit of homework. So I'm going to give someone homework where I'm going to say to someone who's listening to this, go somewhere without your phone and set aside, give yourself an hour. And the hour could be, I'm going to allow for fidgeting time, delay time, your thoughts to be rambling because it's not exactly like you're going to sit down and be centered in 15 seconds and then spend an hour totally weightless and thoughtless. So let's give someone an hour, sit somewhere and just be and see what comes up. And maybe ask yourself that question beforehand. What is enough? What is it I want? What is coming up for me? And just give yourself that opportunity to just unapologetically ask that question
Hmm,
and see where it goes.
sounds good.
See, I'm pretty good, Paul. Aside from the dead
Yeah.
bodies in the garden, I'm not doing too bad. I got this thing. I'm thinking of starting a cult next year, so we'll work on that. We'll call it Optica. So there's another thing, Jamie Gill. If you get us in, we're gonna be sponsored by Gill Opticians, and we'll put all the other opticians out of business, and we'll start a cult. But you have to be able to wear glasses and stylish ones at that. So on that note, Paul, we'll leave episode 1 behind, and I look forward to chatting with you at the next episode.